All right, and I think we are live now. Just to get a few more things set up. Let's see now. I will be discussing a few things today. I suppose I have a guest on, but he's dealing with life issues. Essentially, is what it is. And yeah, sucks, but life is life. Do what you gotta do. Um, Nobody watching as of so I don't feel the need to get worried about what I say. But I'm gonna keep talking. Anyway, let's see here. Jesus, phone, shut the hell up. Oh, viral. You are too kind. Ugh. Anyway, sharing to Twitter. Okay, that's the right link. Damn. Myself. At doing rabbit things. So, with all of the ghetto at large. Wait, what? Oh, I see. You timed yourself out. Nice. That's funny. I don't even want to know what's going on with that. So, for those in the chat, I'm not sure if my computer's going to be able to handle this or not, but I will an attempt at screen sharing. So, don't mind my porn. Just kidding. All right. Ooh, doing the weird screenception thing. Oh, Newly Awakened is here. Welcome to the debauchery. Yeah, still doing the screenception thing. Yeah, I don't know if I can or not. That's anyway. Moving on. There's a Pew Research article that I read that was pretty interesting. Needless to say, I'll link it to you guys in the chat so you can read it if you wish. The no fap zone. I do what I want. It's my channel. I like the fap. Be naked. Be nude if I want. I may or may not be wearing pants. Anyway, so the Pew Research goes on to more or less it's looking at the differences between European and Americans, essentially their core values. Mel? I don't think Mel's in here. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying, Viral, you fucking smartass. Anyway, essentially the research goes to show that the U.S. tends to lead more on the side of isolationism and nationalism, and I do believe that in modern day and age, it's kind of looked down. Most people look down their nose at people that are that are quote unquote nationalists. They immediately lump them in with people that are white nationalists. Which the two are fucking the two are different. All right, but with that being said, it it's hilarious to me that most people would say that the mere mention of a term such as "Make America Great Again." Keep in mind, I'm the biggest supporter of Trump, but the very idea of the mention of that phrase is enough to throw certain people into a fucking tantrum. For, for what purpose and what reality does that make any sense? Oh, uh, make America great again equals racism, but people that say that white people don't exist and that all white people are racist, that's totally fine. That's a double standard that to me just irritates me. And I'm one of those people that I find it easier for me as an individual to say. I can't remember who said it. It was a very popular YouTuber, but he was referencing the N word. I'm not going to say it on stream because, well, quite frankly, this is live, and I don't want to appear to be an asshole. But, well, I am an asshole. But that being said, if you can't hold one word above everything else, either it's all okay or none of it's okay. So the same thing applies to people that are that are being blatantly racist. If you want to go and have a witch trial for somebody that merely mentioned the word that you disagree with, and quivering, I can't. I don't understand where they get this idea from. And I always, whenever I see the SJWs and ultra leftists, and now the alt righters, the way that they treat certain people for saying certain things that fall even remotely out of line for what they believe in, I get flashbacks to reading The Crucible. It's baffling to me that this kind of stupidity is not only allowed, but is also pushed by the media. But with that being said, I'm done more or less rambling. But one of the first studies in this research goes, it's essentially a percent of people who disagree that success in life is pretty much determined by forces outside of your control. Now, the European median falls at 37%, which is fucking Greece of all things. I would not believe them. Poland falls to the left of them. That this being less individualistic, believing that that the forces are outside of their control and therefore they are incapable of changing these things through some imaginary glass ceiling or blockade that exists for why I don't know, but I can't think like an SJW, and I can't think like an alt writer. I'm not that fucking stupid. But with that being said, the U.S. falls at 57% of people believing in the more individualistic side of things, and I consider myself an individualist, so it's baffling to me that Germany, of all people, of all groups, falls in a 31 percentile category of less individualistic on this. Like, it's, I don't want to bring up fascism and Hitler and that whole dumb argument because I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody that I used to debate with in high school that always used to tell me if you have to bring up Hitler in an argument, you're probably already losing the argument. But we'll talk about Hitler, and I'll also bring in communism so I make myself feel a little bit better. Essentially, what these dictators did is they took in the general populace and they fed into their fear and their loathing and the general distaste in the situation that they had been put into, and basically used that fear and that feeling to push their own agenda. Now, am I saying that Germany is moving towards another Third Reich, or would essentially be a Fourth Reich? No, quite the opposite. Actually, they go so far out of their way to push themselves away from that kind of mentality, or seem to do so anyway, that they have strict laws specifically banning such things as paraphernalia that regarding Germany and propaganda and whatnot, which quite frankly I find to be stupid because the old-fashioned saying, if we those of us that forget our history are doomed to repeat it. But I digress. Moving on. Um, the next research falls into percent who say it is very important 0 to 10 scale to work hard to get ahead in life. The U.S. falls to the very capitalist, very individualist, and what I almost believe to be a libertarian kind of right-leaning mentality that in order that they fall in the 73 percentile, meaning the 73% gave it a 10, that in order for you to succeed in life, you are the arbiter of your own life. You can't fuck up and expect to be pulled out of the doldrums by somebody else just because of the mistakes that you as an individual made. Now, this kind of is would be a scary pull to some people because, well, quite frankly, it breaks down a lot of the SJW mentality, such things as patriarchy, toxic masculinity, capitalism being evil, and rape culture and all this other happy worship, which is another topic I get into in a fucking tirade in of itself. But with that being said, will we'll uh, afford a little bit of leeway to the sense that I do believe that some, not all, I am well aware of the fact that evil exists within man, but I do believe that some SGWs legitimately want to help people. But the issue is, as foreseen here, where the center of this poll is Italy at 35%, that means that around a third of your population, as a median in Europe, believes that it's not it's not hard work that's going to excel me in life as an individual. So what does excel you in life then? If hard work doesn't get you anywhere, then what does? The government? The government isn't infallible. They're made of people just like you, hypothetically speaking, just as an individual that just made that statement. They too do not believe that hard work gets them anywhere in life. So neither of these groups believe that hard work is going to give them a positive result. So what is a retort to that? What do you provide as an example, as a way to get ahead in life if it isn't hard work? I don't know. Moving further down the page, Americans tend to prioritize individual liberty, while Europeans tend to value the role of the state to ensure no one in society is in need. You see, now this goes to my libertarian, especially the right side of my libertarian beliefs, that every individual is their own individual. What they do is what they do. They are held accountable for their actions and are held responsible for their actions and have agency and all of this other happy worship. But we don't. Those things aren't instilled upon them simply based upon trying to condemn somebody for their failures. No, it's so that you can have liberties, that other people can have liberties, so that the government doesn't take a majority of your paycheck just because somebody else fucked up. But this goes goes hand in hand with freedom to pursue your goals without state or nobody else's interference. Now, this poll here, as the Pew Research shows, that the U.S. at about 58% of the population believes on the government being less involved side of that, which, quite frankly, actually puts a little bit of pep in my steps. Yes, Max, I'd be watching Sargon. I love Sargon. Why wouldn't you watch Sargon? Freaking gay frogs. Can't stand Sargon. Tell you, it's actually, as a matter of fact, Sargon is actually where I saw this research to begin with, and actually, I was very intrigued by it because I would think it would be more to the other side of things, but keep in mind this obviously includes people that are older and therefore wiser as well, and haven't been sold into the Marxist dogma of communism, amongst other things. So there is greater tolerance in the U.S. than in Europe for offensive speech. Now this goes without saying, because as far as I'm aware in chat, feel free to cut me down in any way, shape, or form for this if I'm correct, especially those of you that actually live within the UK. But I do believe that the UK has no clear mirror to what essentially we have as the First Amendment in the United States. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I am right, that is in of itself self-explanatory as to why this majority exists. Um, the reason why freedom of speech is so important is because ideas are offensive to some people, and you can see this in everyday life where women that are feminists think they're being catcalled as some form of violence. Apparently, they've never read a dictionary, don't know what the definition of violence is, but hey, being whistled at equals getting punched in the face. Sure, why the fuck not? But with that also being said, the concept of freedom of speech isn't there to protect speech that everybody agrees with. Actually, it's the contrary. It's there to protect speech that is offensive, that is going to be shot down by witch trials and witch hunts, as you can see perpetrated by those that are on the left and on the right in certain circumstances. But that being said, let's move on. Religion is significantly less important to Europeans than it is to Americans. Just over half in the US, 53%, say religion is very important in their life, nearly double the share who hold this view in Poland. Actually, I'm not a religious person at all, and even I can say that religion is important in my life through the the prospect that a lot of Christian Judaic values helped shape the West in general. No, that's not saying that I'm a Christian person at all, but that's would be very inaccurate of me to say. But I'm not above recognizing that religion played a part in the construction of this country and the West in general. And any person that would completely say is, well, quite frankly, wrong. Ideas are more dangerous than guns. Why would we let them have ideas? Joseph Stalin, very, very good point. Freedom of expression, but no freedom of speech. G Money, you are free to come on if you want. I can send you a link if you wish. Wait, my internet is lagging. Oh, I can speak louder than words. Why I'm not a Democrat. For those of you that are listening to this in the future, I try to maintain at least some semblance of conversation with the chat. After all, they are my audience. Yes, actions do speak louder than words. After all, on the internet, I can say stupid shit like kill all the Jews and gas the Jews, but at the end of the day, well, quite frankly, I have Jewish heritage myself, so. Not that I do say those. Who am I fucking kidding? Of course I say stupid shit like that. Anyway, moving on. Let's see. I was talking about religion. Me, religion. This is gonna go into a little bit of my history with religion in general. My parents, neither of my parents are religious. My mother's, she kind of, she's one of those people. She's like, yeah, I think that God could exist, but on the other, she's like, I don't practice religion. I don't see any point in it. I do my thing and leave everybody alone. G Money, you're a fat ass. Just joking. Just joking. Get something good for me while you're out. Why don't you? Anyway, in regards to that, um, yes, Max France makes a very good point in the chat. You can have freedom of speech, but I cannot guarantee freedom after it. That is a horrible thing, actually, in a general sense. But I'll segue into that after discussing the religion thing. I go off on tangents. My brain is very scatterbrained, after all. The reason why I am the way that I am about religion is because I was in an atheist debate group when I was in high school, and a lot of them were very adamant about anybody that is that in this debate group, anybody that was religious was immediately shot down based solely upon the fact that they were religious. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to, look at an atheist and say that you were wrong simply because you're an atheist. I just have a different viewpoint outlook in the world than most atheists do. And I've had a discussion with atheists before where I actually had to give them a lot of leeway, and that I assume that when I hear somebody is an atheist, I immediately assume that they're an ardent atheist. But with that being said, I moved away from the atheist debate group because, well, quite frankly, I couldn't agree with them on a lot of things. And also, they were starting to become incredibly liberal, based solely upon the fact that Republicans are religious, therefore they can't be right. Now, this goes without saying. A fact is a fact, regardless of the mouth that it comes from. If a Nazi says to you that the sky is blue, just because they're a Nazi, does that mean that the sky isn't blue? No, the sky is still blue. I mean, the person's still a fucking retard. I'm not going to argue with you on that point, but they're not wrong. Just because a person is religious or just because a person is atheist doesn't mean that what they are saying is incorrect. You should at least take their ideas with. I'm not saying you should take them with a grain of salt, but you should at least listen to their ideas. But yes, I'm well aware of the fact, you smart-ass rabbit, that the sky isn't actually blue, but visually to us it appears blue. I'm well aware of that. Audience being fucking cunts as usual. Americans and Europeans don't always agree on questions about morality. Well, this seems to be interesting to me, but let's move on. Disapproval of adultery is particularly high in the U.S., less so in France. Well, funny story, but there's kind of a stereotype. I don't know if this is just regionally for me from where I come from, but one of the things that comes out a lot is that France has only done a few things right: prostitutes, wine, and cheese. Now, keep in mind, I have nothing against French people at all. Like, French people are French people. I can't speak to the whole group of them in general, but it's still funny to me that this exists. Oh, anyway. Now this goes to a percentage, obviously, of people that disagree or disagree with the concept of morality in general. Fucking cunt squad. I hate you guys. I hate you guys. The U.S. 84% of people in this poll show that they disagree with adultery, which actually, me as an individual, I disagree with it too. If you are in a monogamous relationship, don't be a fucking asshole and go cheating on your partner. That's unacceptable. If you break up with them and you go fuck whoever the hell you want to fuck, that's your prerogative, your business, none of mine. Uh, While adultery is widely frowned upon in the EU, except notably in France, Americans are even more likely to say having an affair is unacceptable. Now, in regards to my beliefs when it comes to that, this can go back to me talking about religion and how it found the Western culture. And you see, the family structure to me. Oh, my voice just cracked. Jesus, I wish I could hold that. I really wish I could edit that out. I sounded like a woman there for 5 seconds. Going back to how I was raised. Now, keep in mind, me as an individual, the reason why I like libertarian is because I view the federal government as a lot like the EU to me. Now, not literally in the sense that the EU equals the federal government. I'm not making a case for a side-to-side comparison. I'm just saying that the federal government has a large amount of power over a large number of things, and bureaucratic loopholes, red tape, and quite frankly, idiocy allows for a large number of issues that we have. And the more that things get centered to smaller and smaller groups, the easier it is for things to be hashed out between individuals that actually have skin in the game rather than the hand of God, so to speak, being the federal government coming down and saying, all right, you get this much, you get that much, you get that much, and that's it. Well, because quite frankly, let's be fair, people in Washington have no idea what the fuck is going off and what is going on and what voters care about in Wyoming. More of a family circus. But anyway, the reason why the family is so important is because it builds a foundation for what you as an individual hold to as your beliefs, your thought processes, what you deem as moral or immoral. Now, me, I was raised in a traditional household. Father worked, mother was a stay-at-home mother. I had two older siblings. The only thing that was a little bit quirky is we differ very much so in political opinion. No, no, incest is not best. Stop that. But essentially, why the family is so important. And now keep in mind, I'm not saying this as an individual that thinks that, oh, women are only good at being homemakers and women are only good at being baby makers. I'm not going to make that claim. You can do whatever the hell you want to do in life. However, when it comes to raising a child, there is this tried and true example of how it works. Why fuck with it? Like, you know the old motto, if it's not broken, don't fix it? Like, I have no issues with women going out and becoming businesswomen and swearing off having children altogether. I don't fucking care. Do whatever makes you happy. And I have no issue with men swearing off women and going off and doing their own fucking thing or being stay-at-home dads. Do whatever the fuck makes you happy. If that's how your family works, that's how your family works. But my issue comes with people that do their utmost to try and break apart the family structure as much as possible. And you can see this in inner cities and the ghettos. And I'm not talking about just black people. Now there can be a case to be made for blacks being, very unequally represented in a single household lifestyle. But with that said, it's still an inner city issue, and it's something that seems to be driven more by the left than it does by the right, which actually kind of makes sense. If you chip away at certain fundamentals and you spread people apart and divide them by gender, race, and whatever the fuck else you choose to identify with today, it makes it very easy to play the ends against the middle, or in this case, one end against the other, lie in the middle and comprise those votes from the other end, saying that the person that you are facing against is purely evil based upon an arbitrary measure that you have no way of backing, but you're going to say it anyway. But with that being said, that does it for that research. So going on to something that Boober, who is in the chat, hello chat, as usual. Alabama voted in Doug Jones, a member of the Democratic Party. Not not very heavily his side. He got 671,151 votes, and Roy Moore got 650,436 votes. So it wasn't a close run by any stretch of the imagination, but still the Democrat won, which, quite frankly, doesn't. I mean, it surprises me in the sense that it's the South that this happened in, but whatever. Trump actually, are trying to get the links to sources to you guys in the chat so you can fact check me in case I say something stupid, because I probably will. Ooh, the one gonna have to see that. Yeah, see. Okay, so with Trump backing him, a lot of people expected him to win, especially a lot of people on the right. Which, quite frankly, I mean, it's the South, so that's not necessarily an unfair assessment. However, he filled a seat vacated by Sessions. Excuse me, Jesus, can't talk. He went after mainly the urban areas. And if you look at the map, you will notice that most of the rural areas outside of Alabama's major city being Birmingham, being the capital, and then you have Montgomery, Mobile, and I can never fucking pronounce another city. What the hell is that? Tuscaloosa? Tuscaloosa? I don't know. And then Huntsville. These are all major metropolitan areas for the state of Alabama. Now, it always is a frustration for me as somebody that lives in the state of New York that if you look at New York State, a majority of it actually falls either moderate or right, while it's majorly New York City, Syracuse, Buffalo, and in some cases Binghamton, that fall more to the left wing side, and also our capital Albany, excuse me, that fall extremely left wing. That's a majority of the population of the state is held within the borders of those cities. Meanwhile, the rural sections of the state get fucked over because they don't have the large population to push agendas like the cities do. Now, that's an issue in of itself, and an oversight not covered well in the Constitution, considering it basically just covers realistically representatives based upon the state number overall, rather than on a county by county basis, as far as I understand it. But yes. Oh, I do see somebody in the chat. This is gonna sound so weird on the playback. So, with that being said, this creates a fundamental issue where Democrats, mainly, now keep in mind, Republicans can do the same goddamn thing. Back during the I can never say this word properly when I need to. I do have a speech impediment, mind you. Evangelical days, Republicans appease to the common belief that anything that falls out of what is quote unquote pure is therefore evil, and what eventually led to essentially what I do believe would be the 1960s, 1970s rebellion, and hippies and retreads and all that other happy horse shit. Most people from the 70s and 80s or 60s and 70s can't remember because of the weed. Most people from the 80s don't remember the 80s because of the coke. That being said, these issues happen because you have a politician that appeals to the lowest common denominator of a group, usually within the inner cities, handouts, at the expense of people that live within rural parts of the state, especially in these southern states where a lot of the rural areas are small towns, usually farming towns. And despite Bernie Sanders' constant diatribe about how bad the 1% is, keep in mind he lies in the 1% himself. That being said, a lot of farmers also fall in the 1% due to the way that the income is looked at under the income that he's looking at when he talks about the 1%. That is usually just what you make right out of the gate without any taxes added onto or expenses for that matter. So a lot of farmers get dicked over by a lot of farmers, not even just farmers, but small business owners in general, as a populace in the United States, get dicked over by people that live in the big cities just for the sake of people in the big cities wanting handouts. Democrats realizing that they can appeal to this and therefore using the tax burden and pushing it further on people that make money and pay taxes, mind you. Also, I don't know, fucking produce and offer jobs to people. Also, are developing blossoming businesses. When businesses become larger, they hire more people. But I can go on a tirade about that in economics altogether. The issue is the people need to realize that one of the bigger issues that they need to be looking at their politician for is the wolf in sheep's clothing, the snake tongue, the silver tongue, and the snake oil salesman. At the end of the day, you might get your handouts, but at the end of the day, guess what else? Everywhere else, all the other parts of the country are getting dicked over. Ooh. Now, in the chat, Bobby Fisher makes a point saying that the answer is only let landowners vote. That would negate this. I'm going to say negate because she misspelled it. The city's votes. Actually, yes. Yes, it would. The the thing about this, the reason why I agree with it, the reason why I agree with the land ownership being contingent upon your ability to vote is A, it gets rid of a lot of issues with voter fraud. It gets rid of a lot of issues with illegal immigrants voting. It gets rid of a lot of issues where people that are deceased vote. And also, it creates people that vote. It creates a situation where people that vote realize that the people that are voting A have land and therefore have skin in the game, but B are also going to be held accountable if things go south. So, despite the Doug Jones winning the Democratic vote, despite the fact that Doug Jones, sorry for those listening to the playback, I'm reading the chat, I'm trying to keep up with it. But anyway, Doug Jones got the Democratic vote in Alabama. And does this in any way, shape, or form mean that the Republicans are going to start losing more and more seats to the Democrats? Well, we'll see. But one of the things I do want to post out, Jesus Christ. Speech impediment in full effect tonight, guys. This is the reason why I prefer to have a guest. Anyway, so I'm gonna link a. Oh, God damn it! I really hate when it does this. That link, same as the previous one that I posted for watching a post. You need to add a C to the end of the URL for it to bring you to the correct article. But as you can see that I just posted, woman says Roy Moore initiated sexual encounter when she was 14 and he was 32. So this is essentially not only pedophilia, but if it were proven to be true, keep in mind, innocent until proven guilty is still very important. Let's see here now. Essentially, it would be pedophilia and sexual assault. So essentially, this came out, and this was posted, oh, geez, let's see here now, November 9th. So, about a month ago. Basically, she's going on and saying that when she was 14 years old, when an older man approached her outside a courtroom in Etowah County, Alabama, she was sitting on a wooden bench with her mother. They both recall when the man introduced himself as Roy Moore. It was early 1979, and Moore, now the Republican nominee in Alabama for a U.S. Senate seat, was the 32-year-old assistant district attorney. I'm just going to go right on a limb here and say 1979, and you waited until he was running for office in 2017 to bring this up. The Washington Post pushing this article in of itself. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying I'm not saying she is lying. I am just saying I am going to give a little bit of skepticism for this, A, because of the amount of time it took you to come out about this, B, the timing of when you came out about this, and C, like I said before, innocent until proven guilty is still very important. But anyway, moving on. He struck up a conversation, Kaufman and her mother say, and offered to watch the girl while her mother went inside for a child custody hearing. All right, as a mother, why in the world would you allow a 32-year-old man to watch a 14-year-old daughter? I don't care if he's a district attorney. You still don't know the fucking guy. Oh, Jesus. He said, "Oh, you don't want her to go in there and hear all that? I'll stay out here with her," says Kaufman's mother, Nancy Wells, 71. I thought, how nice for him to want to take care of my. Oh, for the love of fucking Christ, woman. Stranger danger, stranger danger. I just probably pulled up in a fucking panel van and offered her candy for Christ's sake. And you probably be like, "Seems like a stand-up guy." Oh, but not victim blaming. I just find that side of it to be, just. I'm gonna slash my wrist just reading that. People, be responsible with your children. For the love of Christ. Along with Corfman, Moore chatted with her and asked for her phone number. She says days later, she says he picked her up around the corner from her house in Gadsden, drove her around about 30 minutes to his home in the woods, told her how pretty she was, and kissed her. On a second visit, she said, second visit? What? How? Did you not report? Did you not tell your mother that this happened? And furthermore, okay, I'm assuming that you gave him your phone number. Obviously, you are back in the 70s, so no cell phone, so home phone. You answered the phone. I'm assuming because your mother answered the phone, she'd be smart enough to be like, "Hey, why is this creepy motherfucker calling you?" But you not only does it happen once, but it's allowed to happen again. Now, once again, not victim blaming, but if this does happen to you, assuming I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this actually happened, if this does happen to you as an individual, don't come out about it 28 years down the line. right then and there, that fucking day, because the sooner the government, or the government, excuse me, as soon as it's brought to the police, the sooner they can get evidence, the better the evidence will be, and the more likely of a chance that this scumbag will be put in fucking jail. Because quite frankly, I can't stand douchebags that do this shit either. I think they should be hung. But the pedophilia aside, I'm just gonna stop reading this for a second and have a conversation about the sexual assault allegations. Now, sexual assault allegations to me have become a dime a dozen and can be picked up at the local five and dime for what seems like pennies at this point, especially in regards to places like Hollywood and politics. Now, seeing as a lot of these men and women are people in power with lots of money and are used to getting their way, I'm not in the least bit surprised if some of these come out to be true. Because quite frankly, these people are usually egotistical, narcissistic, just self-aggrandizing cunts. So them taking what they want without any emotion or empathy ascribed to the individual that they're taking it from isn't a far cry and isn't a far step to take. But with that being said, it just the whole thing reeks to me of just why was it allowed to happen again? You answered the phone and your mother Aiden. Were you home alone? Highly unlikely considering the time frame that you are talking about. This is back still when the whole nuclear family and the father goes to work and the mother stays at home thing was still pretty well concreted into society. But a lot of the things don't make sense. I mean, these are the questions that need to be answered when something comes out about sexual assault, regardless of the individual that's making the claim. When this kind of shit happens, you have to ask about the timing. You have to ask, why did it take you so long? You have to ask things like, oh, if it happened once, you look at the mother, why did it happen again? Why did you allow the creepy bastard to talk to the guy to your daughter in the first place? Now, I'm not saying once again, I'm not saying she is lying. I'm not saying the mother is lying. I'm not saying that Moore is lying. I'm saying that A, we should wait for due process of law, and B, in the time, if people want to make blanket accusations and say that they're true, we should also look at the story and be like, all right, this shit doesn't add up. This doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, no, I'm not a parental type. Like, I don't like kids. Shit, I deal with my niece one time a week, and that is more than enough to give me a fucking coronary. But still, I'm not going to let some creepy bastard watch her while I walk into a courtroom. No, she's coming into that courtroom with me and at least staying in the lobby around a large group of people, some of which are police officers, mind you, because I don't have faith in humanity. Anyway, so two of Corfman's childhood friends say she told them at the time that she was seeing an older man, and one says Corfman identified the man as Moore. Wells says her daughter told her about the encounter more than a decade later as Moore was becoming more prominent as a local. So the guy gets more prominent as a local judge and a public figure, and then you decide to come out about it? Lady, let's pushing aside all skepticism and all of what I said about before, saying innocent until proven guilty. What the fuck are you doing waiting so long to get this guy put with his feet over the fire about this? There are so many more people. If he is this kind of person, there are probably so many more people that you could have saved by coming out earlier about this kind of thing. Once again, I'm not victim blaming. I am just seeing stupidity and pointing out stupidity where I see stupidity. Criticizing somebody for their stupid actions is not fucking victim blaming. It is holding people accountable for their actions. With that being said, if this is true and Moore actually did do this, he doesn't deserve to simply lose the election. He deserves to be thrown in prison in the fucking public population, not in the comfy fucking prison that he would probably get as a member of as a politician. No, he deserves to get thrown in the general population. That's what I fucking think. Let the animals take care of the animal. But once again, do not take this as me saying, "Oh, he definitely did it," because I have disbelief whether or not either of these two asshats would be telling the truth. A, Moore is a fucking politician. B, he was running for office, so he deny it regardless. And, well, quite frankly, it's one hell of a claim to be made. So yeah, he would deny it regardless. And a lot of what she's saying and framing up doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't. It's not something that somebody logically, in order of things, would take. But in regards to two of Kaufman's childhood friends saying that she was dating somebody that was older than her, so did she reveal who it was? Did she tell him how much older than her and she was? Because keep in mind she was 14 at the time. So dating an older man could be, I don't know, 17 to a 14-year-old. But I digress. It seems a lot of it smells fishy, and a lot of it doesn't make sense. Moving on. Aside from Kaufman, three other women interviewed by the Washington Post in recent weeks say Moore pursued them when they were between the ages of 16 and 18, and he was in his early 30s. Okay, in regards to that, I'm gonna have to Google something real quick. But as in regards to the age of 18, if a man is 30 and wants to pursue a woman that is 18, I think it's weird, a little bit piggish, but he's legally allowed to do so. And hey, if his kink is women that are 18 to 21, then don't fucking shame him for having that sexual desire. That's his prerogative. Two people of consenting age do behind closed doors. It's their fucking business. If an 18-year-old wants to bang a 64-year-old for that matter, or a 64-year-old wants to bang an 18-year-old, I don't care. But I'm just gonna Google real quick here. Age of consent. Oh, Alabama. Let's see here now. 16. The age of consent is 16. So anyone that is the age of in Alabama, the age of consent for sexual intercourse is 16. Generally, a person over the age of 16 consents to sex with anyone who is over the age of 16. So once again, while piggish, not illegal. Now keep in mind, it's funny to me because guilt reference. Hey, I'm not one to judge, man. You want to bang Gil, score it on the head. I'm not going to stop you. Anyone who touched one of my children would be flayed alive, one layer of skin. God damn, that's fucking metal as fuck. Oh, let's see here. Movie Awaken makes a reference here. Sexual maturity and consent is the issue. Some 14-year-olds may be ready and welcome the attention, but that's not typical. True, and the reason why we have these age of consent laws is to protect. Specifically, I've posted a University of Rochester Medical Center. Whenever I'm debating a pedophile, particularly, I like using this particular reference. But basically, the study shows that even teenagers at the age of 18 really aren't mentally developed and have a very difficult time separating emotional and logical conclusions and decisions. This is the reason why you sometimes when you ask like a 16 or a 17-year-old, well, why did why did you break in under with no apparent reason whatsoever, and they can't really give you a reason. It was an emotional response and a logical response. But I will have the link in a minute. I just got to search for my files here. Oh, anyway, but the point is that I always make the argument. It's a very clearly defined argument. This and it goes to the reason why we do not allow 17-year-olds to serve in a jury. It's the reason why we don't allow 16-year-olds to serve in the military. It's the reason why we don't allow, although I believe falsely, anyone under the age of 21 in the United States to drink. Personally, I think it should be 18 or it should all be 21, but that's aside. This is also the reason why you're not allowed to drive after certain hours and sometimes without, um, another individual over the age of 21 being in the vehicle with you when you are under the age of 18 in certain states. Obviously, it varies by law, but uh, it's basically saying you are not. Yeah, I mean, obviously there may be certain exceptions to the rule, But overall, in a grand scheme of things, you can usually ask an individual and say, "Well, how well did your thought processes work back when you were, in your teens?" And most people say, "Not very well." And I'll be honest with you, I did a lot of stupid shit when I was in my teens. Ooh, Bobby Fischer, you do know that New York just recently passed a law against child brides. I'd ask you for a citation, but you probably can't provide it right now. If you can, though, you can leave it in the description, and I'll have a conversation about it right here. Anyway, what I was saying before is the reason why we separate and we make these laws is because it's very easy for somebody that is far more mentally developed to take advantage of somebody that is far less mentally developed. Under 18 can't even buy spray paint or super glue anymore. I did not know about super glue, but I did know about the spray paint. But it's quite easy to make the claim, oh well, the individual consented to it. Yeah, but their brain isn't capable of being like, if I consent to this, it has long-term ramifications, and I do not have the foresight to be able to understand or foresee in some cases. France is pushing for laws to allow child brides. Viral, if you can, leave a link in the chat, and I'll check that out. Ooh, newly awakened. Peer-to-peer underage sex, drinking, drug exposure, etc. doesn't cause mental issues like it does when an adult grinding a excuse me, I said grinding. Wow. Guiding a youngster to do those activities, and everyone knows that. Yes, that is actually, quite frankly, a clearly defined and clearly well-known thing. Because, and I'll talk about that, because a child views, especially younger children, like, when you're in the prime of your youth, the innocent stage, which the innocent stage is great because you're allowed to be a kid. You aren't burdened by the things that adults are, money, politics, social issues, relationships, and fucking sex. Sex is, oh shit, sorry, Viral. All right, you get your wrench. All right, so what I was saying is, and the reason why we have that separation between and 18 for a lot of people is like, oh, why do you choose 18? Well, you're out of high school, you're starting to come into your own. You should be giving plenty of responsibilities, like kind of like putting your toe in the water when you're getting ready to swim. You don't want to dive right in because it's cold. So what you do is you give a little bit you give a little bit more and a little bit more as they get older and older, so that they can understand what consequences are, because the responsibilities can lead to consequences if they're not upheld to proper moral and ethical codes dictated by society. Let's see here now. Just click on that link that was put in the description by Viral Bunny. It might not be directly in the description right after the stream. It might take me a few minutes, but I will have all of the articles and whatnot that I'm reading off of and talking about will be in the description as well. After all, I do love my citations. Evil dad who raped son from the age of 6 and locked him in a box at home is jailed for 14. I don't see how that's a bad thing. Personally, I think he should be killed, but only a reactionary. Or down without a care in the world. The father denies that the offense is carried out in CO Water. I'm not sure what CO Waterford is supposed to mean. I'm assuming County Waterford or Anyway, intends to appeal the verdict and sentence. All right, I just skimmed the first few sentences. Sorry. Uh, but in a victim's impact statement, the now 13-year-old boy wrote, "Now the dad is locked up." So the guy had been taking advantage of violating his son for 7 years. Not only is that incest disgusting and vile, but he's also taking advantage of his own fucking son. Humanity's evil never ceases to amaze me. Now that dad is locked up, I would walk over to Ireland without a care in the world. The father denies the offense is carried out in Co-Waterford and intends to appeal the verdict and sentence. A jury had heard the child was taken out of the family home by social workers in 2011, just before his 8th birthday, and placed in foster care where he was further sexually abused. Fucking phenomenal. Fantastic. So the family couldn't be trusted with a child, and guess what? Neither could the fucking government. Fucking poor kid. Mr. Justice Robert Egar, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, said it had not been wise to place the boy in the foster home and noted a psychiatrist's report which stated child sexual abuse can lead to many physical and mental ailments in the future. Yeah, no fucking shit. Like you needed like a psychiatrist's report needs to actually be noted on this. Hey, if you take advantage of your children, it fucks them up in the head. No shit. He said these risks were increased when the abuse is carried out by a father. Once again, no fucking shit. The full horror of the boy's suffering was only revealed when he was placed with another foster mother who, the court was told, loved him to bits. But he had to be moved from her home to a special center in the UK because he was displaying disturbing behavior, including spying on her in the shower and acting inappropriately with other children. So essentially, you you take the kid out of the family home. Perfect decision. I can agree with that entirely. And then you throw him in a foster care home where he's further abused, and then you put him with a mother who actually legitimately seems to care for the kid, but she has to give up on him because he is so fucked up and so broken that a motherly figure, an actual adult that wants to take care of the kid. I mean, allegedly, obviously, we don't know a whole lot given the article about what was going on in their personal lives, but I'm going to assume that the woman legitimately cared for and wanted the kid to be taken care of properly. But he is so fucked up in the head by what this scumbag piece of shit did that this child is now considered. This child is probably a lost fucking cause. It's fucking disgusting for me. It's one of those. It's one of these. This article right here is just something I can take to any argument I get in with a pedo and be like, oh, you can't prove to me that having consensual sex with a child is, detrimental to their health. Yeah, you fucking cunt. Here's a fucking example. I could pull up a million more. Do you want me to? Ugh, it just pisses me off. Anyway, this. Well, hold on. It goes on. Earlier this year, a jury convicted the father, who is from the UK, of 9 counts of raping his son from the age of 6 and 1 count of child cruelty. Just one. Just one. I could think of. Didn't he? Fuck. Never mind. I'm getting caught up on semantics. He was acquitted of raping the child with a poker. What? What a fucking disgusting human. I'm not a religious person, but there is a hell. I really hope this guy just ends up on the worst receiving ends of the worst kinds of fucking torture. The boy described one occasion when his father was assembling a wooden box. He asked his father what it was for, and he replied, "It's for you," before pushing him in. The boy was in the box for 3 or 4 hours before his mother finally released him. So where the fuck was the mother in all of this shit? Was she like not just allowing it to happen and not doing anything? I'm assuming the article will answer later, or we're not going to get an answer. But the 38-year-old mother, who is also from the UK, was convicted of child. Okay, she was convicted of it as well. Convicted of child cruelty, but found not guilty of sex assault relating to allegations she had sex or simulated sex with her child when he was between 6 and 7. She was sentenced next week. Both parents had pleaded not guilty to the offenses which occurred between 2009 and 2011. The parents had originally faced a total of 82 charges, but 60 were withdrawn following legal argument. Oh, this is just next level fucking cancer. Quite frankly, I think the father should be put in the father in this situation should be held just at the executioner's acts of the legal system, and the mother shouldn't be far behind him because, quite frankly, obviously she knew about it. So guess what? She knew about it. She's just as fucking guilty in my eyes. But what can I say? I don't give leeway when it comes to that kind of shit. Super high risk for abuse from non-bio adults. Not all are bad, but high risk for sure makes sense. You don't have any biological attachment to the child. You're far less to feel a maternal instinct and a fatherly instinct, for that matter. But I got off on a tangent talking about pedophilia, and that just got me in a whole new slew of things. Um, Going back to what I was originally talking about was in regards to the Washington Post article. Now, to me, in that situation, it just seems to be an opportunity for people to cause a whole shitload of issues with a political individual just for the sake of causing issues for that political individual. Now, whether or not they disagree with an individual is irrelevant. They could be getting paid. They could be doing it maybe because they actually legitimately happen. But I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into this whole pedophilia thing because, well, quite frankly, it's it's something that I see, and I'm gonna have a guest on that's actually a member of the LGBT community, and I want to talk to him personally about this. But so I'll leave the side of it vague, where they're trying to indoctrinate themselves into the LGBT community for, I assume, some form of protection from the legal system, which that is disturbing in of itself. But the University of Rochester Medical Center um, article that I posted essentially breaks down a lot of the arguments that a lot of pedos will make, especially when it comes to the whole concept of consent. But one of the main points I want to that I want to get out is the rational part of a teen's brain isn't fully developed, and it won't be until the age of 25 or so. Obviously, there is leeway because people evolve and develop differently, but 25 is, I would imagine, a median. In fact, recent research has found that adult and teen brains work differently. Oh shit. Adults think with the prefrontal cortex, the brain's rational part. This is the part of the brain that responds to the situations with good judgment and awareness of long-term consequences, aka consequences of sex, voting, driving, drinking, smoking, all of the things that we as a society have ascribed it to an age when we dictate whether or not it's okay, because we are well aware that children need time to fucking develop. And these pedophiles are trying to not push us forward as progressives would try to use as a terminology. Not saying that they are. I'm not saying that progressives are trying to protect pedophiles, but for those of you out there that are aware that some do, that's a discussion for another time. This isn't progression. It's regression. We are taking something we already know and throwing it out the window just because some group of people want to get their fucking rocks off. It's atavistic, and in no way should it be supported or protected. And going to the dark side of the net, the pedo world. Actually, newly awakened. The guest is actually I consider him a friend, but no, not Eurotrash. Actually, from the United States. Charles Marlowe is live. Ah, fucker. He knows I'm live too, the bastard. Uh, but that said, let's have a little look. Ooh, at of all things, the Port Authority bomber. Well, as I mentioned before, I live in New York City. In New York City, despite all of my disgust with it, It's still the biggest city. Well, quite frankly, it's the biggest city in the United States, and it still does hold kind of a heart and a kind of a piece of my heart in the sense, it's a large part of the city, a large part of the state rather, and whatnot. But state patriotism is not something that I have. The progressives, in the sense you mean, would advocate pedophilia in some degree. Look at half of my Twitter arguments. It's sick how widespread that mentality is in them. Agreed. Well, as I've mentioned before, regression is, well, to those of you that are aware, I've talked. Atavism is one of my biggest fears in humans, more or less evolving from what I essentially consider to be the peak that we are not necessarily at now, but that we were at in regards to culture and art and political discussion and social discourse and safety in a whole lot of ways, just simply for the sake of feels. But this merges into what I was talking about. What I want to talk about with the attempted suicide bombing. Now, the majority of the mainstream media, which majority of the media was saying the same thing, usually leads me to believe that they're telling some form of prefabricated lie. But since a lot of their talking points tended to be different, even between the Washington Post and the New York Times, it leads me to believe that a majority of the articles are at least genuine as far as they can tell. But anyway, I'm looking at something from the New York Times here, as I'll be posting a link in the chat. Research my ass. You're an adult at 18. I agree. At the age of 18, legally, you are an adult. Oh, don't be giving away my secrets in the chat. Teen in the 90s. Oh, geez, I was born in the 90s. I'm a youngin'. Anyway, the would-be suicide bomber. Now, I love dark humor, so the fact that this fucking cunt blew himself up rather than actually killing other people, and on top of that, he's going to be charged with a crime, warms the cockles of my heart. Not the cockles of my heart in regards to the fact that he did it, because I don't think it should ever fucking happen. But the fact that the little dipshit did it and fucked it up, just the cockles of my heart on that one. Anyway, he detonated a pipe bomb strapped to his body in the heart of Manhattan's busiest subway corridor on Monday, known as the Port of Authority. For those of you unaware, if you actually look it up on Google Maps, you can see it's relatively large. I think it's on 42nd and 8th Avenue, in the corner of those two streets. Anyway, whiskey. Let's see here now. Busiest subway corridor on Monday. Now this, I want to bear in mind, had this been an actual attack that he actually managed to follow through with, this could have been devastating because, like I mentioned before, New York State is the most populated city in the United States. It's also heavily relies on public transportation. So the individual that committed this act was at least somewhat aware of what he was somewhat aware and had somewhat of a wherewithal to understand that what he was doing could have been very devastating. And the time that he did it, which I do believe was around 7 a.m. I'm sure it says lower in the hold on, let me check. Yes, 7, just before 7:20 a.m. Now, most people are going to work at this time, and essentially what it was a rush hour time. So the damage that could have been inflicted is just mind-boggling. And I'm not saying it would have been, we'll say Las Vegas shooting amount of deaths, but I'm thinking somewhere in the realm of, you know, the Boston Marathon bombing or something equivalent to that. Probably more, actually, considering that was in a subway or in the subway section rather than, out in the open. But the makeshift weapon failed to fully detonate, and the attacker himself was the only one seriously injured in the blast. Actually, I do believe he lost a hand. I might be inaccurate about that, though. Anyway, law enforcement officials said the attacker, identified by the police as Akayad, I'm gonna mispronounce his name, Akayad Ula, 27, chose the location because of its Christmas-themed posters, a motive that were called strikes in Europe. He told investigators that he set off his bomb in retaliation for United States airstrikes on ISIS targets in Syria and elsewhere. So he's 27, and due to the United States fighting a very oppressive, a very brutal, and a very barbaric group known as ISIS, those airstrikes caused him or led him to do this retaliation in Christmas-themed areas. Okay, I'm not going to go outright and say this is purely religious, because nowhere in any of the articles I read does it outright say that he is a practicing member of the Islamic faith. However, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he is. Considering, they attacked ISIS, therefore I'm going to attack them. Obviously, he's sympathetic to ISIS, which is a radical Islamic movement. But and I covered this in a video, but I'm going to cover it in a little bit more detail when we get further down the article. Moving on. It was the third attack in New York City since September 2016, and the second in 2 months, coming only weeks after the 8 people were killed in a truck attack along Hudson River bike path. Like the earlier two, the attack on Monday appears to have been carried out by a so-called lone wolf terrorist. No, I do not think in any way, shape, or form that these two attacks were carried out by a lone wolf. However, I have no evidence that I know is verifiable and that is trustworthy. I have a lot of conspiracy theorists saying that, oh yeah, this was, it was definitely done by this guy, was definitely not working by himself. It was definitely, his family might be involved, but since I have no way of substantiating those, I'm not going to post them or deal with them. I'm just going to say, for the sake of argument, that I doubt personally that they were lone wolf. I do believe that they had at least one other person helping them, if not helping them become radicalized, helping them to pursue the actions that they did. The explosion on Monday morning echoed through the subway tunnels just off Times Square and filled parts of the Port Authority bus terminal with smoke as commuters fled. Even as smoke still filled the chamber, Mr. Ullo was subdued by Port Authority police officers. After he was subdued, Mr. Ullo was taken to Bellevue Hospital Center, where he was in serious condition with burns to his hands and abdomen, according to Daniel A. Nigro, the commissioner of New York Fire Department. 3 other people had minor injuries, he said. So he managed to only injure 3 people with a pipe bomb, which is pathetic in its own right, but let's be thankful the guy's a fucking moron. Well, anyway. So thankfully the guy was a moron and only injured mainly himself for this, which, once again, warms cock in my heart, fucking cunt. But he was an immigrant from Bangladesh. Mr. Ullo came to live in Brooklyn through a visa program available to people who have relatives who are United States citizens. Now, this doesn't, the immigration, as I posted, the video that I did about this actually goes not really in depth, but brings up some sections of the immigration side of this. He is here under an F-43 visa, which is basically, he is a child of somebody who came here as an F-41 visa. So his father or mother, or maybe both, got a visa under the F-41 statute. But the F-41 statute requires you, as the individual getting the F-41, to have a brother or sister that is over the age of 21 living in the United States already as a citizen. Now, with that being said, that kind of immigration system actually doesn't really have a lot of limitations. So long as you get your immigration, you are allowed to have somebody that is related to you come to the country. That being said, I do think that it is not a bad idea to make the immigration a little bit more difficult. Just saying. But essentially, it's what I was getting at was that he came here as a child of somebody else, and he came here when he was 21, 6 years ago, in 2011. So he was here for 6 years, and in 2017 decided to do this. Obviously, he became radicalized. Anyway, the terrible harm that this flawed system inflicts on America's securing economy has long been clear, Mr. Trump said in a statement. I am determined to improve our immigration system, but our country and our people first. I cannot disagree with what Mr. Trump said there at all. Very well done, Mr. President. I agree with you entirely. The issue is, this goes back to talking about nationalism. People say that, oh, you're a nationalist means you're anti-immigration. I have no issue with immigrants. I welcome immigrants. Immigrants help make the country great. In fact, it's what helped build this country. Immigrants are important because they bring their own cultures into the United States, which the United States is kind of its own unique thing because we're not like America does have its culture, but it's not like every group of people follows a certain culture. It's, you have at the end of the day, after the football game is done or the basketball game is done, yeah, you know, we're all, happy football watchers or happy basketball watchers during that time period or baseball watchers or whatever. But at the end of the day, we always tend to separate into our own little subsections of cultures, which I think is fucking great. I think it's helped make this country what it is, and it should not stop. However, there is no issue with recognizing that we have an issue. We have a security issue that needs to be addressed. And people are going to be like, oh, you have no problem, your Second Amendment, and what about gun violence? Well, that's different. That's carried out by an individual. The gun is the utensil. The individual is the issue. I'm addressing the individual. If he came here, if the person that commits a gun shooting comes or a mass shooting comes here through immigration, then we can start looking at gun rights through that scope with immigration coming here and all that are happy. That's another discussion for another time. Anyway, moving on. The attack occurred along pedestrian walkway. Excuse me, can't talk. The attack occurred in a long pedestrian walkway connecting the 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue, and Broadway subway lines. Among the commuters traveling beneath Times Square was a man in a hooded sweatshirt. Then came a deafening boom from him and then smoke. Now, the one thing, I'm not sure, I might go into this later in this article because I don't know if I read the New York Times. No, I did read the New York Times, so I don't think they do cover it, but I read Washington Post, New York Times. I think I read Newsweek and Associated Press on this one. And more or less, I don't think in any of those did it clearly define whether or not he intentionally detonated it or it was an accidental detonation. Anyway, Mr. Eagle had attached the pipe bomb to himself with a combination of Velcro and zip ties. I'm going fucking classic, old school with that. You need duct tape and WD-40 next time, pal, said James P. O'Neill. The commissioner of the New York Police Department was cruelly composed of a length of pipe stuffed with match heads. Its ends stopped up. A broken Christmas tree light was the detonator. When lit, the filament ignited the match heads, a device powered by a 9-volt battery. All right, improvised explosive devices tend to not be relatively well constructed. It's uh, it's just of all. I don't want to get into it because it's a discussion about explosive devices and whatnot, and I have a little bit of background in chemistry, so it's just dumb, 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 dumb. Everything about this guy screams dumb. Oh, let's hear now. You come here, you assimilate and learn effing English. I agree. I have no issue whatsoever with the people. I have no issue whatsoever with people speaking their own language, though. I mean, I agree with you and everything that you're saying that everything should be done in English because that's the native language. However, you cannot deny the fact that we have such things as Chinese restaurants and Chinatowns in some areas where the main language spoken is some form of Asian culture's language. All right, we need to abide the Constitution and maintain our sovereignty. Yes, I agree entirely. Oh, Dearborn, Michigan. I'll actually get into that sometime. Anyway, I'm going to probably end the stream once I finish this article. I usually don't want to run this longer than an hour because I feel like people get bored of my voice. So, anyway, the explosion captured on surveillance video burned and cut Mr. Eula, but because it did not detonate properly, it did not produce shrapnel. Often the deadliest element of a pipe bomb. Correction, often the deadliest element of an explosive device, period. Hence the reason why frag grenades or fragmentation grenades also contain shrapnel. Also, look at a fucking claymore sometimes. At about ball level, they send steel. At about nut level, they send steel balls at your groin at about 1 kilometer an hour. I think he was prepared to die, and we see him connect the wires on the video. Yes, no shit. Why the fuck else would you? This is something that really shouldn't have to be said. Like the guy had a pipe bomb strapped to his chest. That he assumed was going to detonate. Like attached it to his chest, connected the wires. Obviously, he knew he was. He assumed he was going to die. As people streamed through the station, Officer Anthony, I can't pronounce his last name, Anthony M. for short, of the Port Authority Police Department rushed toward the smoke, said Roger Eber, Robert Eber, excuse me, a spokesman for the main police union that represents Port Authority officers. A former Marine, Officer M, 28, found the suspect on the ground with visible wires coming from his jacket into his pants. I'm assuming his pocket. Anyway, 3 other Port Authority officers followed: Jack Collins, Sean Gallagher, and Drew Preston. They arrived just as Mr. Eula was reaching for a cell phone, which the responding officers thought might be used to trigger the other device. Mr. Eber said they dived, they dived and wrestled it from him. Wonder what the cell phone was before. I don't remember reading that before. I've read so many fucking articles on this, I might be just forgetting it. These officers went into this situation blind, only becoming aware of the danger involved once they confronted the suspect. Police released a photo of Mr. Elo that appeared to have been taken inside the subway walkway after the blast. In it, he is curled in a fetal position. His exposed stomach is blackened. Yeah, no shit. Mayor Bill de Blasio found himself for the second time in 2 months calming the city after a terrorist attack. In this case, at least they actually called it a fucking terrorist attack that time. In this case, on a system that moves millions of people across the city every day. Our lives revolve around the subway, he said at a news conference on 8th Avenue a few hours after the incident. The choice of New York is always for a reason. Because we are a beacon to the world and we actually show a society of many faces and many backgrounds can work. Yes, however, it's slowly getting picked apart, and you need to be aware of that. You need to understand where the issues lie. The terrorists want to undermine that, the mayor added. They yearn to attack New York City. Yes, also, to add to this, New York City is also densely populated. So you get a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak, when you do a terrorist attack in a densely populated city. In all honesty, I'm not surprised that Los Angeles hasn't been targeted. I'm surprised Los Angeles has had its fair share of terrorist attacks over the years. That being said, knock on wood. Investigators led by the Joint Terrorism Task Force believe Mr. Eula acted alone, but they only have just begun to review materials from the researches and other leads. Christina Betho was in the underground walkway headed to her job as a security guard when the explosion nearly knocked her over, sending a haze of smoke into the corridor. All right, I want to skip some of this. Warning, thwarted travelers spilled in the streets of Times Square, yada, yada, yada. On Monday morning, police searched a 6-story apartment building where Mr. Eula may have lived with his parents on Ocean Parkway, as well as 2 other residents. I'm assuming his siblings. However, I don't think it goes into it. At around 11 a.m., officers led a woman in a dark coat from the Ocean Parkway home, a gray hijab covering her hair, into a patrol car and sped off. The area is home to a few thousand Bangladeshi-born residents, and then represents the heart of their Brooklyn community, with stores and mosques built along Church Avenue. Fate is ironic, isn't it? Mr. Eula is a permanent United States resident, according to Tyler Q. Holton, having arrived in 2011. I covered that already. So, what I want to know is, are they looking into this area in general? Considering obviously he's been radicalized, so then it needs to be looked into. Like, there's obviously something fucking going on here. But excuse me if I stay quiet. I'm just trying to skip through a lot of this. In 2009, law enforcement authorities prevented a cell of people with ties to operatives of Al Qaeda from carrying out plans to bomb subway trains. A later year, in May 2010, Faisal Shahzad, a Pakistani immigrant, tried to detonate a truck with explosives in Times Square, but his devices did not go off. So this is not, as I already knew, this is not the first time this has been fucking attempted. September 2016, a crude homemade explosive crafted from a pressure cooker packed with shrapnel was left on 23rd Street in Chelsea, exploding but killing no one. Now, that is an homage, so to speak, to the Boston Marathon bombing, where essentially the same type of weapon was used, going to show that if people are desperate and want to kill people, they will go out of their way to do it, regardless of whether or not they have access to things like, firearms. Before Monday, the last attack was on Halloween, when a man spurred by Islamic State propaganda drove a rental truck down a bicycle path on Manhattan's west side, killing 8 people and injuring 12 others. The man Sayfullah was arrested and charged by federal prosecutors. He has pleaded not guilty. Yeah, that picture you got of me standing outside of the vehicle that I used to run over a bunch of people? That wasn't me. That wasn't me. You're joking. Anyway, let's see here now. Okay. So it doesn't go into any really further detail further down in the article, but I am going to discuss something I did read in another article. The how was I going to frame this? I also covered the video that I did about this as well, where they are aware that he was working. However, they weren't aware of where he was working. It means he was working under the table, most likely, which the IRS not going after him is surprising, considering usually people don't tell about getting their money. They're worse than the fucking mob in a lot of ways. But it seems to me that a lot of unanswered questions came out of this, and I'm really hoping that they do get answered and that a lot of people start opening their eyes more or less to this kind of issue, because turning a blind eye and turning the other cheek it's not going to help. It's only going to make things worse. Europe is an example of this. We need to learn from our mistakes, do the things that need to be done, whether or not they're difficult or not. With that being said, I am going to end this stream. I have talked your guys' ears off long enough. So, to the stream out there in general, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night. I will be having a video out Thursday. I am feeling a shit ton better than I was, hell, even at the beginning of this week. So, hopefully, it'll be something fun. But have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night, and I will see you glorious cunts tomorrow.